Hi there. My name is Kevin Fodua, and I'm a co-founder of Fair AI Certified. We are a not-for-profit, grassroots, and open source initiative to build a certification for fair artificial intelligence that small and medium businesses and startups could follow to make sure that their AI products don't create harmful biases and discriminations. So our approach would be to test the AI model's outcomes through APIs. And that would be constituted of three core components. First, the actual access to a model through an API. Second, and fair AI taxonomy. And third, the ability to run statistical tests to actually perform that audit on the model. And so on the first part, an API is basically a seamless way to communicate with an AI model, which would allow our audit system to look at the outcomes and vet for potential biases or discriminations. And now, looking at the outcomes in this way through APIs is an alternative that is way more frictionless than trying to open up all of the company's systems and then check all of the processes one by one. And on top of that, it allows us to focus on the outcomes of the models and not on the processes, which is really what you want to do. You really want to focus on the outcomes, because even if all of the processes of the company are well designed, if down the line the outcomes are not fair and contain discriminatory practices, then you haven't solved the real issue. Once we have this API access, the second piece would be to create a fair AI taxonomy, which would translate the 7 requirements of fair AI as defined by the EU in their latest white paper on AI from the end of last year, and translate those requirements into statistical requirements on critical variables such as gender, ethnicity, or religion. And once we have this taxonomy, then we will be able to run statistical tests and be able to audit and assess whether bias is present. So on that statistical test and how it would actually run in practice, here looking at an example and at the case of renter applicants. If we want to evaluate whether a model that approves or rejects applicants for a new apartment is biased across gender, then what we would do is look at a big cohort of male applicants with different characteristics for each, like their salary, their history of rent payment, and their current location where they live right now. And then what we would do is take these male applicants and transform them into female applicants with the same other characteristics or very, very similar ones. And doing so, what we can do then is to statistically assess whether this change of gender, the switch from male to female, by itself led to substantial changes in the outcomes. And it's also possible to visualize that. And here in the graph, you can see that in this theoretical example, if you're female, you actually need a substantially higher salary to be able to get the same renter score, which means the same likelihood to be approved as a male applicant. That would be very similar otherwise. That might look like an example that's kind of too blatant to be true, but there was actually an issue with Apple credit cards at the end of last year, which was very, very similar. So a real world case where couples were applying for credit increases, and those couples, in those couples, the man and the woman were having very, very similar financials, but for some reason, the men were approved and the women were not approved for very obscure reason that were not clear. So that example is actually not far-fetched at all. And at this point, we are launching as our initiative as a nonprofit, and we're looking for SMEs and startup partners to help us design and test our APIs. And at the same time, on the substance of the certification, we're really looking to partner with policy experts, policymakers, and also academics on helping us define what fair AI exactly means, both conceptually and statistically, and help us narrow down the parameters that we need to test to certify fair AI for all. So if that sounds interesting to you, please definitely reach out to us at hello@fair-ai.org or spread the word.